Hi. Wow, that's kind of an entrance. I first want to say thank you to all of you for being here today. Um, Without you guys, we don't have the courage to step forward, and you have no idea what that means for us. And I'm not sure what to say other than just get started. The best way I can serve you today is to just simply share my story. What I know to be true through my own personal experiences, and I've got some information nobody's heard of before, but it'll be coming out here tonight, and you'll be the first to hear it. So to begin, I think to begin. As we stated before, this is basically the job I had. I represented the planet Earth. I didn't represent the United States. I didn't represent the Navy or the Air Force. I represented the United Nations. And the representation of the United Nations, we were very altruistic, and we represented the people of Earth. We didn't represent a nation. So it was actually a very positive experience for me for the most part, ultimately, because the work I was able to do was something that indescribable, because I was able to represent humanity as a whole. We always have feelings about certain organizations on our planet, governments, organizations that are put together, and there's certainly a lot of negative to some, and all really, but there are factions of it that truly do try to do the right thing. And I was very blessed, very fortunate. Unlike some of my brothers and sisters that have been through this, that were not experienced in having the experience that I had in working to try to fix issues, work with other races, and try to make things right, and that was what I did. So that's just a side note. But to begin with, yes, I was taken when I was 2 years old. I was born in 1968. So in about 1970, so this was me, and that's my sister Erlene. She's in the back. And that means a lot. It means a lot. So I was taken at 2 years old out of Southern California. And another little slide. That's kind of closer to the time that I was taken. Of course, that's my family, and I just thought you guys might want to see what it looked like in 1971 or so. I think it looks kind of obvious that it's 1971 or two, but that's before my brother joined us into the family. But they took me at 2 years old, and why would they want to take a 2-year-old? I'll get into that a little bit more in a moment. But as a caveat, so that everybody understands, I chose to go prior to my incarnation. It was a plan that we had made. And so my contract was to go into the SSP. Well, I'm calling it the SSP, but in going into working with Earth organizations, military organizations, to try to bring in information and try to help evolution of the human race, spiritual evolution. So that's why I chose to come, even though at 2 years old I would have never known that I agreed, because we forget when we were born, forget that we have a contract and what our job is here if we choose to do it. So just as a caveat, even though when I explain a lot of what happened and it's traumatic, it was my choice, just so you understand. So when they did take me, I was put into tanks. And there was this growth gel. It's like a purplish pink gel. And it's just this large sort of acrylic tube. And this is a silent video. Some of you may recognize this from the movie Avatar. But it works really efficiently as to show you what the tanks look like. These are much larger than what I would have been put in as a human, but they look quite similar. I thought it was pretty amazing that they got that right. And this goes to the movie Wolverine Origins. I'm showing you this clip because this was very similar to the process. It was about that size, but it was a round tank, round tube. And here they're injecting some stuff to make his bones metal. But with me, they were injecting the same pink gel that I was technically drowning. In here, you'll see that he has a respirator so he can breathe. I didn't have that. And because that gel is highly oxygenated and I could absorb through it, but it was still traumatic. And then they inject needles all around my body. And I was suspended in this gel. He's lying on a table, but I was suspended, so I was around. But this was the process. Fortunately, the gel had qualities of numbing, so I couldn't really feel the pain except for the pressure. And so it wasn't painful, it was just really traumatic, as you could imagine. And then they would inject, the reason they inject the gel that's on the outside into the inside as well is so that in the growing process, internally, I would grow and externally at the same rate. And then after about 5 weeks, I woke up. This is back to Avatar. So I woke up and I was in my mid-20s from being placed in when I was 2 years old. And at that time, you imagine, okay, there's a 25-year-old that has the brain of a 2-year-old, and that's absolutely true. But the reason to take a young child, the very young mind is blank. There's no preconceptions and there's no understanding, so it's easier to retrieve all the old memories, because memory is based on DNA. And the technology that they have can actually unlock those memories from your DNA. And then suddenly I remembered everything about who I was, all of my past lives. I remembered why I was there and that I had signed a contract and I wanted to be there. And everything suddenly was like a flash. I remembered everything. So, and then also, why would they do age progression? Because we hear a lot about clones and people transferring consciousness and memories from one person or one clone to another of the same person. And they do that. They do that more than they do age progression. The reason they do, for example, cloning is it's basically cheaper. It's cheaper to grow a body than it is to age progress someone. And it's mainly because of that pink gel, the growth gel that I was placed in. And because that's sourced from another race, from another planet, and obtaining it was expensive as far as whatever they had to trade for it. So they only reserved that process, age progression, for people that they didn't want to take a chance on losing their consciousness or memory, because that can happen. So if you're taking out their consciousness and memory and they want to put it in a clone, if something goes wrong, they may lose it entirely. And because of the plan they had for me, that wasn't the route they wanted to go, so they put the money into doing the progression instead. Why me? Well, I agreed to do it. Actually, more than an agreement, I desired to do this. I desired to do this because basically my native race is literally billions of years old. And this is what we do. We travel from planet to planet, helping elevation and evolution of races as they begin to get into the spiritual age, which now Earth and humans are. So that's just what we do. It's natural. So whatever means necessary to make that happen, more often than not, is what we do, because of the understanding that we had is a little inconvenience is worth the bigger picture. And also, many of my former lives, because I had repeatedly done this, we've been on Earth for thousands of years in my particular race, incarnating into all sorts of people you've heard of. But part of what I specifically did was I would do negotiation between races or between parties. That was kind of my thing. I could kind of come in and try to help them see eye to eye, hopefully. And I would do that through telepathy, because my race is very telepathic and empathetic. And so psychic type of abilities is something that we had a very strong aptitude for. So it was a good choice for them, because we would go in and they would have they would have somebody, if I'm negotiating or I'm with the military that I'm subject under at that time, they would be the ones in charge, but I would be the one reporting to them saying, listen, this isn't going well. You guys need to be more compassionate, or you need to understand something else within this scenario, because I can feel something coming from them. Or they're literally telling me telepathically, these guys are asses. They would tell me that while we're in the middle. We'd be telling jokes back and forth, because these guys yammering on, and we're talking back and forth entirely, completely new subject. So, but also, as I said, we're ancient, and we're one of many thousands of races that actually do this. In fact, it's somewhat of an unwritten rule that when a race has evolved spiritually, and then the big picture, they understand it, they're in fourth, fifth density, even beginning fourth density, what you do is you turn back and you help other races that are in the process as well. And the reason for that, it's not entirely, just because it's the right thing to do. It's because, like planet Earth over here, we have a lot of stuff going on, a lot of turmoil, a lot of contention that creates really negative energy. And that's not just global, that's galactic energy. And that energy loops back to the other side of the universe. They can feel, because a lot of them are really highly advanced, they can feel the negativity on Earth 140,000 light years away. So they're going to come and help us so they don't have to deal with it anymore. So why wouldn't they, right? But also, it is sort of the right thing to do, also. And so you have these races that's what they do. They travel, and most all of them do. So what was their plan for me? Well, you see, the beautiful planet Saturn. And I don't know, you should be able to see, there's a little tiny white dot. There's actually 4 planets in this, or 4 moons in this photograph. But the one that's just above the rings in front of Saturn, we're looking at that one, by the way. And it's called Mimas. You see there, where Mimas is, just outside the rings. It's technically the smallest moon of Saturn, but that's what we're looking at right now. I wanted you guys to see where it was in conjunction to Saturn. Here's these are images from NASA and Cassini of Mimas in front of Saturn. I'll just let you see that for a moment. And here I just want you guys to get an idea of the size. We see Earth and Venus and Mars, Ganymede, Titan, Mercury, Callisto, Io, and our own moon. And if you look up to the right, you see Mimas. So you see a comparison of how large Mimas is compared to our moon. And this is, like I said, it's the smallest moon. It's also known as Saturn I because it's the first moon out from Saturn. It was discovered in 1789 by William Herschel, and he named it Mimas after the son of Gaia in Greek mythology. The average radius of Mimas is 123 miles or 198 kilometers, just a little bit of data there for you. But also, Mimas is known as the Death Star moon. And that's an actual photograph. of Mimas. And I often refer, and this is interesting, I would often refer to the space station I was on, which I just told you the next slide or two, as the Death Star moon. But I didn't remember it was called the Death Star moon, which was recently I remembered that. But it's why I compare them is because not just the shape and size, but Mimas was discovered 3 years after Star Wars came out, so it was kind of obvious that's what they're going to have to call this moon. You know, come on, it's almost perfect, and there's a reason for it. But again, I already told you, but the other reason I compare Mimas to the Death Star is because Mimas is the Confederation of Planets Saturn station. So you're literally looking at the Confederation of Planets station on Saturn, where thousands of races gather. And that's where I was stationed for about 40 years. Now, yeah, it's just a big rock, right? As they often are. But so is our moon. And we know there's a lot of secrets about our moon, you know. But the Earth's moon and Mimas, they're both natural. They're naturally occurring. They formed, Mimas from Saturn material. But it's been re-engineered a lot like our moon for habitation and to create it as a station. And the interesting thing about Mimas is, and our moon does as well, most planets do as long as they have enough gravity, they reside in multiple densities. And when you reside in multiple densities, material changes. And what we see, we're in fourth, but very beginning of it, so we still see third density. That's what we're kind of locked in. Our eyes can only see that. But, Mimas in third and fourth density is just a big rocky body. But in the eighth density, it's metallic. That's what it looks like in eighth density. And but you wonder, if an Earth ship in third density flies to Mimas and wants to dock with that station, it's just a bunch of rocks for the most part, right? But there's a reason we can actually get there. And I just want to qualify this. I took this image off of YouTube, and it was almost perfect. The only difference is the red lighting you see doesn't exist, but that space does. That's where most of the ships actually dock around the station. So I thought I couldn't believe it because the exterior is incredibly similar to what this image was. So I thought it was a really good, apt image to show you guys. So anyway, even though we can't see it in third density, we can dock with the station how it looks in eighth. And the reason for that is that interplanetary and intergalactic Earth ships have density engines. The engines, what they do is it allows the ship, to change its current vibrational state. And then it's like putting a skin around the ship or a Faraday cage. And then once it changes, you can see here, this is another image I took. It does something very similar to this image, but if you imagine a ship with a very tight skin of plasma, and then what happens is then the density engine can actually be adjusted to what density you want to penetrate. We'll go into that a little bit more. In fact, we'll go into it now. So here you see a series of liquids, different colors, the different densities of liquids. And this is just a kind of a visual representation of how to penetrate multiple densities. And if we drop that ping pong ball, it doesn't do much. And the reason for that is that ping pong ball is very high density, very light, very thin, mostly air. So it just barely penetrates the first density here. But you see we have some other things on the side there in red, like that soda cap. It dropped down, it penetrated the full first density and the second density, but couldn't penetrate the third density. But the beads, which you can barely see there on the left-hand side, were able to penetrate the first, second, and third, but not the fourth density because of their densities. Of course, that cherry tomato was able to penetrate 5 full densities, but not the 6th. And the reason for that is that density penetration, all objects can only penetrate densities of which they're compatible or like. So material must be transmuted to like vibrational material to interact with the density. And that's what the density engines would do. They would mimic the density that they want to penetrate. And so they would just change their vibrational state, the Earth ships would, and they can penetrate all the way to the 8th density. And then once they did that, then they could see the station, they could dock with it. And as long as they were docked and that engine was on, they would remain there. But if you got off the ship onto the station, which I often did, you're part of that 8th density ship and you're fine. Then the downside to this is that a 3rd density body can't really remain in a higher density for very long because it's just not compatible. Days, hours, is really as long as you can stay without some sort of either, because they have clothing that it's a density type clothing that you can adjust, but it's still not even more than days even then. But, so how can I remain in an 8th density state for, years at a time? Well, unfortunately, while I was, I think I lost a slide somewhere. But anyway, basically the way I could stay is I wasn't always conscious. I essentially was used as a tool when I was on the station. They would bring me out of stasis when they needed me, and then I'd go back. Or they'd place me into a small room, very small, kind of light green color, plain room. And that's basically a Faraday cage, and that would also have the equivalent of a density engine. That room would be surrounded by it, so it'd be a 3rd density environment that I could remain in. But even then, they didn't like doing that because it really wasn't as natural, so it was easier to, put me in stasis. So I stayed in stasis out of 40 years, like 80% of the time. So then you see here, there's the United Nations uniform patch, and I'm praying one day somebody actually finds these patches, because these are the patches that we had on our uniforms. And I'm still the only one that remembers this patch that I'm aware of. If anybody else does, please let me know. Because I traveled with the United Nations and a lot of different people. It'd be nice to meet a few. So anyway, part of what I did, I represented Earth, like I said, in negotiations. And I would actually speak as I'm speaking now, and like, for example, all of you, 1,000 or 2 people, and about 40 of you would be human. Everybody else would be every shape and size, and it's the most fascinating thing in the world. So I kind of missed that. It was really fun. I mean, you can imagine people in their underwear when you're speaking, but in my mind, I'm like, I see all sorts of things, way more interesting. Anyway, I also worked in consciousness removal and memory extraction. That was what my first 20 years was before I became emissary or became representative of Earth. So I worked with that. So that's part of what I originally did, was working with that. And I felt it was a service because a lot of the people that came in had lived through trauma. And some of them actually begged you to take memory from them so they didn't have to live with it anymore. I also worked in negotiating with races. A lot of what our Earth ships would do, or Earth organizations would do, we'd go off planet for resources a lot. And there's a dark side to humanity, as we all know. And there's a lot of factions that have basically entirely left Earth. They were from Earth, but they're now gone, and they don't represent Earth, but they go out and do things, really terrible things. And how it works when you're in higher density as a race is that the whole race is held accountable for the actions of everyone, even if you're no longer from Earth. Maybe if after a few million years they would change that, but it's still seen as Earth humans. Even though they go up, blow a planet up or destroy a colony on another planet, and it was the Dark Fleet that did it, we would have to go and apologize and find a way to make it right. And that's what I did. And I also worked with electromagnetic and crystalline technology. What I learned about magnets and crystals is everything out there that's based on technologies, all of the technology, even interstellar space, engines, and healing modalities, and any kind of thing you could think of that's really high in vibration are always magnets and crystals. It's always magnets and crystals. Because there's, magnetism and gravity is basically the same thing on an energy level. There's a repelling and an attraction, and you have enough gravity, you have the attraction as well. So the energy is almost identical. And magnetic therapy combined with the crystalline technology, is universally known. Everybody knows about it. So the number one crystal, this is interesting too, the number one crystal in the whole of the universe is quartz. Everybody wants quartz because quartz can be used for creating energy. It can be used for focusing energy. And there's several forms of quartz, as most of us know, but the quartz is like, if there was an intergalactic currency, it would be quartz. And it's like I say, the crystalline technology is the basis of transmutation as well. You can transmute material through the use of quartz energies, and it actually, quartz can transverse densities and transverse dimensions, and that's why they're so prolific in everything. And literally nothing is impossible, when you use these technologies properly, and that's a very widely known understanding beyond Earth. So what I did was I combined them. I brought the DEEMS device to the world. And the DEEMS device is a magnetic... Oh. Thank you, guys. The DEEMS device is a magnetic device that uses crystals as well. And I wasn't going to add this because I promise this isn't a commercial. It really isn't. I can't build them fast enough now as it is, so it makes me nervous telling people about it. Like, oh Lord, I'm never going to get a break, but that's okay. So what I'd like to do is, because if I were to stand here and try to tell you how this, and the reason it's not because I want you guys to know how the device works, and I don't want you to run out and buy it. That's not it. I want you to understand the technology, because the government's not going to give it to us. We have to go get it. So this is my goal. I give a lot of these things away for free because I want people to have it and use it and have it on Earth. In fact, I didn't patent this, so if anybody wants to build it, go on ahead. In fact, I encourage people. They build them and they send me photos, and I'm like, no, you're not doing that right. You need to do this. I'm like, go build your own, please. I just want them on the planet. That's my goal. I want them here on Earth. We have about 1,000 out now, so we're doing okay. Yeah. So, to serve you guys better, I am going to show you a little video. It's about 11 minutes long. You don't have to hear me for that long. Well, actually you do, because I'm recorded. But this describes the device. And like I said, I want you guys to know what's possible.
This is the DEEMS device, the Divine Evolution Electromagnetic Microsingularity Device. I know that's a lot of big words, but what do they mean, and what is a DEEMS device? Much in the same way that acupuncture uses small needles to adjust the flow of energy in the body, the DEEMS device uses 14 powerful rare earth magnets, or neodymium magnets, to create a flow of electromagnetic and piezoelectric energy. This energy is focused to a single point, either in the center of this ring magnet here, or it's moved to the tip of these pyramidal-shaped crystals here. The point of energy can then interact with the meridians or neural clusters in the body to relieve pain, help to stimulate cellular growth, and balance the energy centers or chakras. But how does it work? To answer this, we must first understand basic electromagnetic therapeutic treatments. Electromagnetic therapies have been around for hundreds, if not thousands, of years. In ancient Greece, electric eels and torpedo fish were used to treat migraines, arthritis, and gout. The first known electromagnetic therapy device was the Baghdad battery, and just like the DEEMS device, it used iron rods surrounded by copper plates in a jar filled with water. This water would then generate a small electrical charge, and when placed over the patient's treatment area, it was believed to have relieved pain and stimulated cellular growth for healing. This process was rediscovered sometime between the 16th and 18th centuries by the University of Leiden in Holland. The university coated a glass jar with silver or tin and inserted an iron rod in the middle. Again, the jar was filled with water, generating a small electromagnetic current, and applied to the treatment area. The DEEMS device is a copper tube with an iron plate in the center separating a series of 13 neodymium magnets, the most powerful magnets available. The difference here is that instead of water, the DEEMS device uses pure organic beeswax to buffer the series of magnets held within the device. This electromagnetic flow of energy then exits the handle and flows around this powerful ring magnet. The flow is then returned to the handle, and the process is continued infinitely. The ring magnet pushes this current outward, creating a vortex of electromagnetic energy. Our device uses this vortex of electromagnetic energy flow to enact changes in the body for healing and balance. But why is this important, and how does it heal? To be honest, the effects of magnets and electromagnetic energies on the body is still somewhat of a scientific mystery. We've known that magnets cause the flow of electromagnetic energy since the work of Faraday in the mid-19th century, and due to the research of Drs. Luigi Galvani and Carlos Meditucci in the late 1700s, we understand that damaged nerves emit electricity. If the nerves are exposed to air, the electrical charge dissipates out of the body. But if the damage is under the skin, the emitted electricity will collect and pool around the damaged nerves as their normal flow of electrical current is interrupted. It's well understood that if a nerve is damaged, its blood supply and lymph drainage will also be damaged. This tissue damage, be it bone or soft tissue, produces a pooling of electricity, blood products, lymph drainage, and inflammatory mediators, and it's believed that this pooling is a large component of the sensation of pain and causes inflammation and ultimately can inhibit your body's ability to heal naturally. It's well established that temporary pain relief can be produced by the use of certain electrical currents and their derivatives, but it's also believed that due to the extraordinary research of Dr. Robert Becker, that they may heal and regenerate tissue as well. It's our belief that this is so, and it's to this end that the DEEMS device was invented by us. Let's dive a little bit deeper. Electromagnetic therapies are of two basic types: those that remove or mobilize the already occurring electricity within the body, and can be as simple as soaking in a hot mineral bath, wearing copper bracelets, acupuncture, and magnets applied to the body. The second type of therapy are those that administer a current of some type to the body. These can be the use of an electrical current or a derivative of a current such as sound waves or lasers, ultrasound, infrared, or even radio frequencies and other electromagnetic energy waves. The DEEMS device falls somewhere between these two types of electromagnetic therapies. It clearly uses powerful magnetic energy waves, but it also uses a piezoelectric energy as well, created by the tension exhibited by the flow of energy from the device into the ring magnet, creating a vortex and the single point of energy. But how does electromagnetic energy ease pain or affect healing? Again, the reason for this isn't entirely known, but the best understanding of it is through the research of Ronald Melzack and Patrick D. Wall, where in 1965 they published their findings in a book entitled Pain Mechanisms, a New Theory. In their book, they postulated that administered electrical currents block the gates that control pain impulses in the spinal cord, preventing these impulses from ever reaching the brain. In addition, it's believed that administered electrical currents help to release indigenous endorphins into the body, which relieve pain as well. It's also believed that the use of magnetic current helps to disperse the pooled electrical energy and/or change the polarity of that energy, dispersing it into the surrounding tissue or moving it along the pathway of healthy nerves. Magnets also likely affect the iron found in red blood cells, increasing blood flow to an injury or pain site, promoting the mobilization of inflammatory mediators, moving them away from the pain site, helping to temporarily relieve pain. The DEEMS device is also intended for the use of energy work and the healing of the body and the soul, in that it uses the universal energy which surrounds us all and is contained within the flow of electromagnetic energy. When the flow of energy is directed through a crystal, the elemental and mineral properties of the crystal change the frequency of universal energy to a more focused energy tuned to the vibrational frequency of the crystal used. When applied to the body and directed to the different energy centers or chakras and the corresponding crystal is used, a greater degree of balancing and healing can be enacted by the practitioner of energy healing, meditation, and overall body wellness and balance. But who would benefit from the use of the DEEMS device? Anyone suffering from pain and who seek holistic means of treatment in addition to an already established pain treatment. Anyone seeking a more balanced energy flow within their body. Those seeking a deeper and more effective relaxation, especially when applied in conjunction with meditation, sound, ultrasound, and massage therapies. Also available are the 7 chakra stones.
Okay, that's where it gets commercially, so we'll skip it. And I show you that not, like I said, not because I'm trying to sell it. The fact is, I want you guys to understand what this technology is and how simple it is. It's just crystals and magnets. That's all. And we can do this ourselves as a group of people. We don't have to wait for any government or any sort of organization come and say, yeah, it would be great to have a healing bed where you lay in it and it does everything for you in a few seconds, but we don't have to wait for that. We can do this type of technology ourselves. And I just wanted to be an example of the fact that we can do that. I started doing these with $500, and I just had, like, my sister and a couple of other friends just gave me some money and said, let's, make it happen. We believe in you. And so I was able to bring these. So I'm just trying to say that we can do this ourselves. We don't have to wait for this technology to be available to us and handed to us. Grab your own energy and your own power and create it yourself. So after, no more preaching, no more physics, no more of any of that. But what I'd like to do now is a little bit of free time. And when I say free time is like, I'm not sure what I'm going to say next. So good luck. But before we go to that point, I want to share with you a few of the races and entities that I met that were friends of mine or that I knew off of our planet, so you guys can visually see, some of what's out there. The first guy is this guy. His name's Jigadim. He was my best friend for 40 years. And he still comes around. In fact, I would not be surprised if he's not here somewhere right now, supporting. There's a little closer, a little closer look. Actually, I went back one too far. There you go. You can see those eyes. This is a race. These folks, they're either Arcturian or Andromedan. my memories are weird, so I'm not going to claim either one. They're all kind of connected ultimately anyway. But you can see those eyes. Now, their eyes are dynamic. They're not static like ours. If you were to look into them, they would be like gases in space, and they would be like moving, and just colors, like it's just phenomenal. In fact, they would change with their emotion. You can see their eyes change colors. It's just all I can say is wow. And this is his ship. That's several miles across. And it doesn't fully penetrate our density because it's easier for them to travel. They travel in our upper atmosphere. In fact, I literally can lay on my roof. And I live in Hawaii, so we have nice skies there, and see them go by. I'm like, you got to land eventually, right? But not yet. So anyway, that's him. And here's another guy. He's a work in progress. I haven't finished his artwork yet, but the love from this guy is just indescribable. Just indescribable. He has like an elephant seal's sort of snout, and then a cobra's sort of shape, cobra's hood. So he's really kind of fascinating looking. And that race is, again, names I don't claim names because they're not clear enough for me. But they absolutely love humanity, and they're here, and they've been here for a long time. And here is another for you guys. They're about 8 or 9 feet tall. Tall thing, we would automatically, the first thing we think of is tall gray. Well, I mean, there's a lot of different shapes and sizes of what we call tall gray. This race is really fascinating, and there's a story that goes with this particular race. As you notice, as you can see, I didn't draw his face. I was instructed not to, because he could be identified. So I said, okay. And he became a friend of mine and a huge supporter of mine because he did something terrible to me. And then he felt really bad afterwards, and I'll tell you that story. I was on Saturn. We were negotiating. One of the dark fleets went to this race's planet and killed 200,000-300,000 of them. They wanted their resources, and they wouldn't agree to give it to them. They took it. So, of course, we had to meet at the Saturn station. Met with him and 2 of his representatives. There was 3 of them. And this race is fairly stoic. They don't really show a lot of emotion. They've kind of, what they think evolved out of it. And not that they don't have them, they just don't allow them to show too much for whatever reason they've chosen that. But the emotion behind this event was pretty deep, because so many of them were killed. And my 2 superiors that were with me, we were sitting at a desk in a conference room, and they're across from us. And my 2 superiors, who basically had control of the conversation, weren't really connecting to what had been done. They weren't showing that they understood how egregious it was that part of our human race killed so many of them just for, I think it was crystals. They just couldn't understand it. So when they do have emotion, when they do kind of like, when we lose it, we can just scream at each other. When they lose it, it's more dramatic. So because he was feeling, and he was telling me, they're not hearing me. They don't, in his words, because he used my words or our words, so we understood what they're talking about. He said, they don't give a fuck about us. And I'm like, no, they do, I promise. Don't, I was trying to calm him down. But he was just so upset that he ran his hand across his chest, his left to right. And it created this, still don't understand it, but it created this beam of energy. And this beam shot out and hit me in the shoulder, this area right here. And it's bad. It was really bad. And he instantly felt tremendous regret. And immediately he backed off. So it was an emergency situation now. I was literally dying on the ground. So they had to take me. They took me off, and then it was the first time they took my consciousness from the body. They had progressed and moved it to a clone that they kept in. They keep clones of certain people for emergency purposes. They're in stasis. So they took me out, took me to the clone, or vice versa. I was not paying attention. But anyway, they took my consciousness out, and they unlocked it and moved it into that clone. So that was the scenario behind this situation. But the good side to that is, first of all, he instantly felt terrible about it. But also because he saw that he lost his temper and harmed someone, that he backed off. And they were able to come to an agreement after that. So it was all, the planet, they were going to come here and not pay any attention to what all the other confederations were saying. And they were going to come and seek vengeance. And they chose not to. So me being shot was worth it. Yeah. Here's another one. They're they're not technically crystalline, they're light. They're made of light, but they look crystalline to us. And this is just, it's all pinky, it's all love, it's all gold, that's all it is, and that's all they are. They're just love and pinky, and yeah, they're fantastic. They're very old. They're hundreds of millions of years old, if not more. I'm not sure how old they are. But this is another, all of these entities have visited me on Earth in this body. So that's why these are the ones I'm showing you. So anyway, I love this guy. These guys are amazing. They often, this is one of the three races that when we see visions of angels, it's these guys. Yeah. And you see I kind of created a little bit of a face because they often do that just so we have something to look at, because we're not accustomed to looking at, light shimmering. So that's kind of as a favor to me, so I could see his face. And the last guy I have for you guys is one of my favorite people of all time, is this guy. And again, I'm really trying to remember his name, because I'm like, how can you not want to know this guy's name? Clearly, they're a primate-based race. They, however, were left alone on their planet, so they were able to evolve over many millions of years into an intelligent form. So they're pure primate. I would guess them to be more like a rhesus type of monkeys to me, is what they kind of look like. But they evolved on their own. And as you can tell, they really love human clothes. And so he appears to me in my bedroom one night wearing this zoot suit. And I'm like, dude, that's cool. I kind of want that. And I think he did it because he kind of knows I like clothes too. So, So yeah, here's a little closer picture of him. And you can see they have some really loving eyes. And here's another funny thing. Those glasses have no lenses. He's like, I just like them. All right, I get that. Cool, good for you. Totally funny. They have a huge sense of humor, and I really like them. So that's all, unfortunately, all the time I had for drawing and painting for you guys for this. But I'll give you one more quick look at Mimas. This is another angle that from the Cassini passed by. This is admittingly advanced. We had to place this in front of Saturn just because it looked cooler. But the space station on Saturn, where I was there for 40 years. And so now what I would like to do, I think I have like 11 minutes. I would actually like to hear if you guys have any questions, anything you'd like to ask. And I don't know if we have a mic or if we need one or not, but so we have 10 minutes. I can't see. Okay. That works for me. Why beeswax? It's a really good question. The DEEMS devices are all metals. They're copper, iron, neodymium, nickel, so they're very harsh metals, and they're harsh to our neurological system, and they're not very compatible with our nervous system. So the beeswax, which is technically an interdimensional material, is holistic and natural. So we put beeswax in, and it brings the vibration of the metals down to a more compatible. And this is one of the keys to how this device works. So it's a really good question. I literally have never done research on the frequencies of the beeswax. Every device is built the same, and I've just built them, and my goal is to get them out. So I haven't done the frequency research, though. I have not. It would be nice to have someone to do that. Please do. Yeah.
Next question. Hi, so you're back as a normal human being. And
Mostly normal.
Mostly. So my question to you is, you're not working for them anymore.
No.
Do you, because I know many of us here have out-of-body experiences where we go and help save people or help and move the weather or do things like that. Is that something that you have?
The work that I do in my sleep is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah. I go back to my people and kind of work out issues. So when I come back and wake up, I do not work alone. I literally have thousands of entities that assist me.
Do you remember, though, what you do at night?
Quite often.
Quite often?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Thank you.
I have a question about the DEEM and whether or not it has the capabilities of working through the quantum field. Are you able to use it as a healing device other than if the person is present? A
number of customers that report back to me, because I really ask that people tell me what, because I'm learning. I don't know how these things work either, really. Absolutely. I have a number of people that say they work remotely on other people.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, Chris. Hi.
Hello. Oh, hi.
Yeah, so I have a quick question.
Sure.
Are you familiar with the USS Ark Corp, which is the United Solar System Antediluvial Recovery Center? It's one of these planetary corporations that's based in Saturn.
I am not familiar with that, and the main I might be, but because I was belligerently telling them I'm going to remember, I'm like, I promise you, I'm going to remember. They gave me what we would consider a double dose of memory erasing, and that just wiped out all names. So I might, but I can't say that I do it, with any confidence.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Chris.
Hi.
I spoke with you briefly about this, but I purchased the device like a month ago, and I'd been working on my heart chakra in another area. And when I came through the airport security, it set it off, and it lit up exactly where I had been working with. And you kind of tried to answer a little bit, but can you elaborate a little bit? Why would that?
Well, I would say in working with these devices, the device doesn't do anything except for emit a magnetic field and a piezoelectric energy. That's all it does. What it does is it allows our body to heal itself. So it just gives you a whole bunch of extra energy, because we're not running around barefoot, grounded to the earth and drawing up nice, new, fresh energy all day. So this device allows that to happen. So it pulls in a bunch of additional energy throughout your body. And then if you have a blockage in any chakra, it's going to stop there and work, and you're going to feel that happening. So in your case, it worked all the way up to the heart, and you said you had an injury in your side, right?
I had some pain there, and so
Pain.
I've been using it there. which
And-
the pain was gone. But when
Yeah. So having the device there, you're drawing the energy through your body and out this way or the opposite way, depending on which way you're holding it. And so what that does is show up because the energy's still
Okay.
there. So we
It
have,
showed up.
it showed up.
It
That's.
showed up.
I know they glow. I go through TSA, take them on a plane, they glow, so they pull it every time. They just think it's a pipe bomb and they test it for chemicals and let me go. So we have a minute and 45
Thank you.
seconds.
Final question.
This is a quick question. Any of your friends that visit you, have they had previous lives as humans?
Oh, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. It's a very, very common thing.
So they understand us pretty well.
Yeah, that's the people that I worked with, and that's part of the process is you have to often incarnate through that race just to get a gauge. So
Thank
yes.
you.
We have another minute.
Hi, Chris. I'm Brad.
Hi, Brad.
Have you or any other practitioners had luck with carpal tunnel syndrome with the device?
Yes, in fact, there's a customer here that can tell you. Yes, this lady here, she was telling me earlier that it's been remarkable for her. So I would look her up.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. We have 40 seconds. Any other questions? Oh yes, this is my fourth body. Body I was born into, which was age progressed. First clone after injury, and when I signed up for my third 20-year program, part of my negotiation was for a 25-year-old body. So I kind of went backwards, and then a 2-year-old body placed back. So this is my third clone. I still have a lot of those abilities, but not like I did. Yes.
Real quick, the video that you showed us about the DEEMS,
Mhm.
is it available online?
It is online. In fact, you can pick up a business card and you go on the back of that. There's a QR code that takes you to the YouTube, and there's
Oh,
several
perfect.
videos there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then did the Galactic friends help you in designing this?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. That's it for me.